Sorry, 518. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
Hello?
Hello? You're on the air.
OnePlus is the newest
Okay. I'm not 518. I'm actually calling in from Germany to give you some context to about the elections that just happened.
Okay, cool. It says 518, but whatever. Great. Yeah, please tell me. Tell us.
Yeah. It's okay. So it's a really long story, and I could go into detail because I've been like an anti-fascist activist for 20 years now.
Oh wow. Okay.
So but just to give you like the contemporary context, it's not surprising because you have a sociologist from Germany called Heidmeyer. Did some regular studies about basically authoritarianism, xenophobia within the population. So it's supposed to be a representative sample of the German population, and what he found was about a third to 20% people who have like a close-minded, authoritarian, xenophobic, sexist, hard-right view on things. And those views can be found out like throughout the last 20 years since the study has been done, that have been pretty constant. So there is like a potential there. But what's specific about Germany is because of its past, the Shoah and all that stuff, those people were kind of hidden within the normal parties, and they weren't, they didn't have the guts to come out as anti-Semitic, as racist, as authoritarian as they really are. And now they have been emboldened by, basically the alt-right in other countries. And there is like a global alt-right that is different from the old school German Nazis. The old school German Nazis, for example, were not climate change deniers because their line was protecting the environment is protecting the homeland. And that's where the the Alternative für Deutschland, AfD, is different because they're climate change deniers. They came from libertarian people. They have libertarian economic views, and they combine them. They're basically Nazis without the socialist part. Basically, they just want everything. Yeah,
So
there's been like a rise.
Just I'm curious about this because it seems like, particularly in Europe, that is the fault line between these different parties. So in France, the National Front does still, it fuses its Nazi legacy and its xenophobia with a commitment to preserving the French system, and that's obviously highly racialized and not for immigrants and everything else, but there's that kind of dual argument. There's that fusion of xenophobia, but also opposition to austerity and international neoliberal economics. But then in Germany, alternative for Deutschland would be, the politics would be. So in Germany, and I just want to give people a kind of template. So if there's Angela Merkel, Christian Democrats, that's the, center-right party. Then Social Democrats, center-left. Then you have a actual left party. Then you have the Free Democrats, which are socially liberal but extreme on economics. And then the Greens, which are actually more of a kind of centrist party. That would be my read. But that the alternative for Deutschland, they're basically, what they're appealing to is the people in the Christian Democrats that hate the sort of moderation on social issues, some disaffected voters from Social Democrats on immigration, some, and then a Free Democrat agenda just with fused with bigotry. And I mean, and while we're on that, I mean, tell me whether that's right or not, but are they like pro-marriage equality and pro-choice, or are they socially reactive on that as well?
Well, they're split, or they don't really dare to come out like that because, homophobia really doesn't play well in Germany nowadays. But on the other hand, lots of people are saying there's like a gayification of Germany going on. It's like a bit of the the liberal cock meme in the German context. So basically, there's like this red-green gayfication of Germany going on that has them riled up, basically. And but on the other hand, they have like one of their major candidates is a lesbian herself, out lesbian. So they're not really sure how far they can go with that. There's some subset of people who are like sexually repressed hate people, but not that many. Most are like not that many workers, basically, but like well-off people who are not really that educated, like similar to the like the small business owner asshole who votes for Trump, basically.
Right. And how connected is it? How connected are no? How connected are they with, to the extent that it's even possible? But we have this question here of like, what are the connections between the Trump administration and the alt-right, and then on a further continuum, the resurgence of groups like the Ku Klux Klan, these other fascist terrorist groups. To the extent that Germany still has, and I know it's more difficult because of speech laws, but a skinhead movement, a kind of street neo-Nazi movement, are there connections between that party and those more kind of on the street elements, or are they clearly differentiating, at least in terms of their presentation and connections?
It's a mixed bag. There are some connections, but they try to disavow them. The most telling connection is the one to like an Alex Jones type alt-right media. We have like basically an Alex Jones type conspiracy magazine, which was launched like I think 6 years ago. It's called Compact Magazine, and that's like basically conspiracy theory and all basically Alex Jones in the German context as a magazine. And then we have like a newspaper that also like carries water for them but won't admit it. It's like our Fox newspaper, basically. It's called Bild-Zeitung, and that's like basically Fox News in print in the German context. And those two like shifted the whole discourse to the right. And then we had like on the streets elements where there was like a convergence of all those people. There were the conspiracy nutcases, the conspiracy anti-Semite nutcases, the far-right Nazis, and those libertarians in the streets together under the name Pegida. That's Patriotic Europeans Against the Islamization of the Occident, basically. That's what that is shorthand for that. And yeah, those demonstrations have been going on, getting smaller, but going on for like 3 to 4 to 5 years now, basically every Monday, especially in Eastern Germany. There's like Germany has a similar dynamic that you have with the with the American South and the American North in terms of economics, because the German East is basically not able to compete with the West since basically since the Eastern Bloc failed because it wasn't able to compete with the West in terms of productivity and stuff like that, and it didn't really pay off to really bring the East up to speed. So there's basically a lot of abandoned country where people have no economic future perspective, because it would be very costly to get production there up to speed, basically. And so there is a lot of resentment there, and the center right or the center left haven't really done anything economically in spite of all this suffering taking. Well, suffering is a bit much if you look at the rest of the world, but in spite of all that taking place, they've basically always gone with austerity. Like the Schröder SPD was quite similar to Clinton in your country.
That was a government. Just to tell people, there was a government before Angela Merkel. There was a red-green coalition that ran Germany. I believe it was from 1998 to 2005. with Gerhard Schroeder, who's the chancellor from the Social Democratic Party. And at the time, I mean, and again, I did a primer on this for my show on the Third Way, but at the time, this was a global movement in some respects, or at least a global top-up movement. Blair, Clinton, Schroeder, Cardozo in Brazil, and several others. And it gave people a kind of these neoliberal center governments a kind of blueprint for certain types of limited social investments in basically capacity training for people to meet the demands of a tech economy, slashing respective countries' welfare systems, which meant very different things in different contexts. Obviously, in America, much more savage because we barely have one to begin with. In Germany, even after the cuts, it would still be enviable from a U.S. perspective. But in a German context, real austerity, and then kind of moves towards, you know, the sort of more kind of, you know, hip capitalism, which was the flavor of the world in the kind of late 90s and early aughts. And so the Social Democratic Party under Schroeder was really remolded in that image. And then they went into coalition with Merkel, as far as I understand, which has been another difficult aspect for them to, because the candidate that just ran, Martin Schulz, to some extent was trying to sort of reclaim an anti-austerity social democratic mantle, but it was difficult because Social Democrats have been governing in partnership with Merkel for a while, for I think 2 parliaments now. So
yeah, it hasn't only been difficult because of that, but the whole Schroeder people, though, the whole lowering the top earners tax rate, deregulating the financial markets, basically having what in Germany was new, having people who are unemployed more than 1 year, they have to take any job for like $1 an hour.
Right.
So basically, what they did is lower German wages so much that the rest of Europe couldn't compete, and that's like another whole layer where they invoked racism against Southern Europe within the financial crisis, basically slaughtering them and benefiting from the currency enormously because Germany was more industrialized and had a higher standard of productivity, and there was some room for the wages to decrease. But what that meant was that the deficits that the whole European Union had with China and with the US for some part were exported from Germany to Southern Europe. So all the deficits would accrue in Southern Europe, and the people would suffer more and more vicious austerity. And in Germany, they would say, no, we're not paying for those lazy Southerners, basically. And that was like a campaign that really made the bed. I blame Germany in a great part for like destroying the European Union in terms of its ideologic baseline. Okay.
Yeah. No, and just and that was really where Merkel had a great fusion of. There's no contradiction between the austerity neoliberalism and then her playing to her right-wing xenophobic base by demonizing normal, average Greek citizens as an example, literally devastating them, hollowing them out, practicing economic terrorism, and then coming home and actually, demonizing them in the same way that you might hear a typical politician here. Race bait people from Latin America. This is a similar dynamic. So
exactly.
Final question. And before you sign off, please say your name again because this has been like an amazing mini interview. So I appreciate your time. What kind of coalition will take? What do you think the next coalition will be that takes over governance?
I would place my bet on the Jamaica coalition, which, as you said in your program last week, is really not as fun as it sounds. Right. Basically, the Greens going more and more libertarian, and what you would expect maybe from Jamaica legalizing marijuana, that's off. That's not happening. Right. But that was a Green issue. Basically, I think the Greens are going to try to get some environmental policies in, and basically giving up all their the social beneficiary welfare profile that they have, left, that's basically going to be all gone. And that's like the best case scenario now. The worst case scenario would be re-elections, and as far as I would assume, that would increase chances of the Alternative für Deutschland to get even more votes.
And just to be clear to people, it would be Jamaica, because it would also include that Libertarian Free Democrats Party. So what it is it's the blue, yellow, and green, and that's yes.
It's basically yellow. Black and
yellow, black,
green.
Yeah, excuse me. The Christian Democrats being black, right?
Yeah. In Germany, if somebody says I hate blacks, you have to ask if they mean the party or the people.
Well, wow. Yeah. And so all of a sudden you're either meeting a horrible person or a cool person. All right, I appreciate it. And what's your name again, please?
Jacob.
Okay, thank you very much, Jacob. That was very helpful. Thank you. Look at that. The level of calls that we got on the Majority Report, man. Come on.
It's like a second interview.
It really was. With just some smart guy calling in from Germany who's listening. That's great.
20 years of anti-fascist experience.
With 20 years, a veteran anti-fascist campaigner in Germany. It's great.
Hi, folks. Sam Seder here. We still need your help on our Patreon page. YouTube ads have come back, but not nearly as much as we had before. So if you can help us out, any little bit helps. Head over to our Patreon page right at this URL, and you'll help us keep helping you by making videos